Welcome to TAM Talks, where we discuss the greatest challenges that museum leaders are facing. Today, I'm talking with Ann Fortescue, the President and Executive Director of the International Museum of Art and Science in McAllen, Texas. She also serves as Counselor at Large at TAM. Welcome, Ann.
Alex, thank you. It's great to be with you today. And thanks for the invitation to do a TAM Talk. I'm really excited.
Okay, Ann, can you let us know how you got into museum work, and then let us know a little bit about your museum?
Of course. So I've been working in museums and serving the museum field for over 35 years, and it was actually a museum experience that started me on my journey. For one of my undergraduate history courses, we spent a week at the New Orleans Living Historical Farm doing 19th century farm work. Our professor wanted us to have some real hands-on experience as to what it really would be like to be a 19th century peasant or farm worker. And the whole experience opened my eyes to the power of learning from objects. And it started me on my pursuit to become a museum educator. I went to Bank Street College of Education to get a graduate degree in museum education because it afforded me the opportunity to both work in a museum and in a classroom concurrent with going to school. And I thought that blend of theory to practice was suited my learning style particularly well. I was fortunate. After graduate school, I found a job in a small history museum that was part of a larger Library and Museums Association in New England. And then once I had sort of, I guess, grown into that position and it was time for me to move on, I was able to join the team in Pittsburgh that was planning and building the Heinz History Center. It was then the Historical Society of Western Pennsylvania, and we had a big vision and big aspirations and not a lot of money at first. And so it was an incredible experience. I was in Pittsburgh for over 20 years, and that process of building a museum from the ground up was something that I think I continue to use throughout my career. I had an opportunity to grow and develop and hone my skills in a whole series of progressively responsible positions at the Heinz History Center. And I got to a point where I guess I began to feel, a little stale. And again, was fortunate to have an opportunity to do some more intensive leadership development at the Getty's Museum Leadership Institute. And that was a turning point for me. It affirmed my decision that I was ready to take the next step and look for a museum director's job. And I knew I wanted to work in a museum that was small enough that I could wrap my arms around it and understand everything. And in fact, do a little bit of everything. And I think my work at the Heinz History Center, building audiences through community engagement programs and initiatives, was a distinct advantage when I was hired at the Springfield Museum of Art in Springfield, Ohio. And the museum had been struggling to connect with its community. And so I think the board saw in me, that quite frankly, that fire in the belly museum educator that wants to share the museum with everyone. And like many art museums and many communities, there had been a bit of a disconnect because the museum wasn't perceived as a place for everyone. And so I took that challenge on, and with a small but mighty staff, we did a financial and programmatic turnaround, and we reconnected the museum with the community, and that was incredibly rewarding. And I was having a really great time doing that work. And of course, when you're having a really great time, doing good work, that's of course when a headhunter will come and will say, what about, wouldn't you like this new opportunity? And I was like, no, I'm perfectly happy. And I think fortunately for me and for imus, the search, the headhunter and the search firm were very persistent, and I was recruited to be the imus's new executive director. So I've been here for just 2 years, and it's been, as everyone knows, living through a pandemic has disrupted a whole lot of things in our lives, and it's also afforded us opportunities to do things a little differently and to focus on things that we might not have taken as much time with, sort of non-pandemic or pre-pandemic. So for me and for the staff at imus, this past year has been a wonderful opportunity to get to know one another better and to work together more closely. Part of that was necessity is the mother of invention, and we had to work closely together to figure out how to deliver our programs, virtually at first, but then continue that online delivery while reopening the museum and welcoming more visitors each month as more and more people felt comfortable being out and about. Our visitation increased. And the museum's been in existence since 1968. It was formed as a partnership between the McAllen Junior League and the city of McAllen. And its purpose was to increase the quality of life for residents of McAllen and the Rio Grande Valley through educational programs and exhibitions. And the museum's had an original facility, but in 1976 moved into a purpose-built museum building, what was then on the extreme north end of town. Now we're practically at the epicenter of the city as the city continues to grow north. And an addition was built in 2001, and both the original building in 1976 and the 2001 addition were part of the city's bicentennial and millennial projects, respectively. Although, as has been consistent throughout the museum's existence, we are truly a public-private partnership organization where private funds have been raised and city support has been consistent. And for that, I think, we're truly grateful. One of the other benefits to that is that imus is truly a museum of the community. And so because we have that public-private founder story, but also ongoing support, really keeps our connection to the community vibrant. We have about 15,000 works in our permanent collection. More than half of those are Mexican and Latin American folk art. We have a natural history collection with geology specimens, and we have some American as well as European art, primarily focusing on Texas and Mexican American culture and folkways. We've been go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, we've been accredited by the American Alliance of Museums since 1972. and we're a Smithsonian affiliate. And we, like many museums across Texas, we participate in national initiatives to minimize barriers to admissions, the Museums for All program, and we are a Blue Star Museum as well.
Well, thank you for letting us learn a little bit more about yourself and how you got into the museum field. And I know as a museum educator, I share that fire in your belly that we all have for passion for what we do. And really just happy to have you in Texas, and especially being a representative from the Rio Grande Valley, where we're really an important place for us, especially for me personally, but for us as an organization with a growing population down there. But in terms of imus, you know, we've had this pandemic come and hopefully go, but I want to learn a little bit about some of the challenges you might be facing today, and see how our community might be able to help.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that for us has been reconnecting and intentionally engaging with our community as we learn how to operate sort of through this next phase of the pandemic. And so again, it's you know, how are we ensuring the safety of both our staff and our visitors? You know, what are we doing to kind of minimize those risks, at the same time kind of delivering the same high quality, enriching museum experience that elicits the awe and wonder that we want our visitors to have. Yeah. So that's one part. I think from the kind of, again, that's sort of more outward looking, kind of from the more inward looking standpoint, how do we create a strategic plan that sets a vision for the future while reshaping our programs and activities to move us toward our goals? I think we've learned so much during the year of the pandemic, and how do we take that knowledge and use it to inform, you know, how we create those new strategic plans that have in them the nimbleness and the flexibility to be responsive to unexpected circumstances without completely derailing us from our goals. Because we're not going to, I think for most of us, we're not going to change those strategic plan goals, but we need to have the flexibility to adjust the ways we get there.
Yeah. Strategic planning is top of mind across many of the museums, as some of the conversations we've been having recently. So just a couple more questions. You know, is there anything that you need from our community that could help you overcome some of the challenges you address?
I think one of the things that you know, as I'm getting to know the Rio Grande Valley and communities, I have to remind myself to kind of think big, but act small. And what I mean by that is sort of envision these big, bold ideas, but make small steps as I'm getting to know the community to achieve those goals. And I think, you know, everything that we can do to celebrate and acknowledge and uplift the staff and listen to them, because I think for many of us who've been in the museum field for a while, you do get a little bit of, you know, I've been there, I know that. And it's really important to listen to those new voices who are coming into the field, who bring with them, you know, just those variety of perspectives. And I'm always like delighted, but also I feel refreshed when one of those voices comes out and says, well, why don't we do this? Or what about this? And one of them for us was, you know, those ubiquitous lawn signs for well, now they're up for everything, but primarily they were for political campaigns.
Yeah.
And we were struggling with, how do we let our community know that we're open? And we're at a busy intersection. And so one of our, wonderful creative staff members said, why don't we put lawn signs out? And so we did. And it says, we're open, admission $1.
Yeah.
And it works. People take notice, and again, gradually our admission is increasing month by month. So which is great. So it's important to listen, I think, to those new ideas, maybe coming from unanticipated or unexpected places, and acknowledge them. Give the staff the credit for having these good ideas. I think, again, there's always that balance of time. And one of the things that, I always want is more time to connect with trustees and donors and community stakeholders and museum members. And that's been such a challenge during the pandemic. And so, I think I look to our TAM field for ways others have done that. And I know there's a lot of creativity out there among our TAM community in terms of how do you keep those relationships going, and also how are we rekindling them as we now do more in-person activities. And again, money's always a challenge. And it is this, do you want more money? Do you want more time? It's a real, that's a real
push and pull.
Yeah, it's a real push and pull. But I do think one of the things that, those of us in leadership positions, it is really important to let staff know that you are working toward raising more money so that we can provide affordable wages, and we want to retain the talented staff that we've invested in, that we've nurtured. And I think that's a field-wide challenge. And for some of us, it's a little harder depending on the community in which we live, because resources just may be scarcer. But I think it's something that as part of the TAM community, we can certainly, that's a topic, a recurring topic of conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think,
go ahead.
Well, along with that is also the challenge to find those cost-effective exhibits. And I think this is particularly true for small and medium-sized museums. Changing exhibitions are expensive. And so, of course, we want to, maximize the return on our investment of, spending those hard-earned fundraised dollars, and at the same time provide the community with that awe-inspiring experience that we're all about. So in terms of how can the TAM community help one another, I'm optimistic that there are some great exhibits out there in maybe some of our larger TAM members museums that might be being retired soon, that could be rehabilitated and provided, that experience is still valuable. It's been well researched. It's maybe it's been well loved in one location, and it can have a second life after being refurbished in a second location. So some type of exhibit exchange or exhibit, quite frankly, hand-me-down network that we could have with TAM. Not that TAM would take that responsibility on, but that TAM member museums would be able to do that kind of networking among ourselves.
Yeah. TAM's here to connect everyone and really understand what you need and how we can serve as a way of pass this information along. That's the whole purpose of these TAM Talks that we're doing, and you heard it here, members. If there's an exhibit that you're looking to find a new home for and refurbish, this might be an opportunity for you. So just in closing, I want to see is there anything else that you'd like to share with us before we close out today?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing here at imus this fall is we are initiating our inaugural annual juried members exhibition, which opens up on October 9th. And this is an opportunity for museum members who are artists to exhibit a work of art at the museum. And I think one of the things that you certainly know, and I know about the Rio Grande Valley, is that there aren't that many opportunities for artists to exhibit their work. And we have some of the best art galleries in our area, and we want to put them to good use and connect them with artists in our community. We're also honored to be collaborating with the National Museum of Natural History as a Smithsonian affiliate. They want to pilot taking one of their exhibits and turning it into a traveling exhibition. And they were looking for an affiliate partner who in a bilingual community, because they want to make sure that the exhibit is in both English and Spanish. And they reached out to us and asked if we would host Dig It, The Secrets of Soil. And so we're excited to be doing that. It'll open up in November. And it's also affording us the opportunity to work with our local university partners who have academic faculty who are working on soil. The Rio Grande Valley is historically an agricultural region. We still have lots and lots of large farms around us, and certainly, that's an important part of the Texas economy. So I think this is an exciting way to, take a science exhibit that has a strong local connection.
Well, thank you for your time today. We'll get to learn a little bit about you and your career, the museum you're at, some of the challenges and some of the upcoming highlights. This is a great opportunity to connect with other leaders in this field. So we'll continue this series with other speakers, but thank you for your time today.
Oh, you are so welcome. It's great to be in Texas, and I am enjoying getting to know Texas museums through TAM. Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome. All right. Goodbye, everyone.